listen your way to a sale. Listen your way through a discovery call. Don't talk your way out of a sale or talk your way out of a good discovery call. Don't talk about yourself. Just ask them questions. Let the conversation breathe. And I can promise you, by the time that 2 to 5 minutes is over, you're going to know exactly what to say and exactly what to talk about.
Here's the deal. Sales isn't about pushing harder, talking faster, or flooding inboxes. That's noise, not strategy. Real business development? It's about presence, precision, and knowing exactly how the room feels before you open your mouth. Jake Stahl, author of Own the Room, How to Communicate to Be Seen, Heard, and Respected, has spent over 30 years training teams across 6 countries and 47 states, teaching solopreneurs how to turn conversations into conversion, known as the mind mechanic. People who have been trained by him say he has the uncanny ability to break down human behavior and rebuild it into real, repeatable influence. This is where communication becomes your unfair advantage. Welcome to Own the Room with Jake Stahl.
Time to read some mail, Jake. What do you think? Should we get to these listener questions?
All right, my favorite time of the week. Let's do it.
All right, so Jordan chimes in here. It says, Jake, my nerves suck before every sales call. How can I chill out? I think we've all been here before. We get so nervous before that sales call and not even sure how to just like relax a little bit before we hop on.
Yeah, so Jordan, I'm not sure the reason you're stressed out, so I'm going to have to take a couple of guesses here. Some people get stressed out because they're prepping for a huge call and they need the business. Others get stressed out because it's a discovery call and they're not sure what avenue to go down. But there's a couple of things that definitely help with being stressed out. The first is preparation. So, Jordan, first thing you do is just make sure you're prepared. Go online, find out all you can about the person. Use an AI, use ChatGPT or Gemini to do your research. Use Google, find out everything you can about the person before you jump on the call. Because a lot of times we get on a call, we're shifting from another call, and it's like, shit, I didn't have time to prepare. So preparation is big. Second is set a goal for the call. What do you want to accomplish? Are you trying to make a sale? Do you just want to get a discovery call done and close them on taking another call with you? Are you trying to close a contract deal? So you're trying to get a close and a signature. Get that goal set in stone in your head and make sure that you keep that goal in your head during the entire call. So figure out questions that lead to that ending, comments you want to make. So make sure you have the end in mind. Third, take a bunch of deep breaths. And we've talked about this in previous shows. The box breathing is amazing. So 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, hold your breath out for 4 seconds. And as John, my esteemed colleague, had said in a previous show, use a timer because we tend to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So
that's relatable.
Right. So use a timer when you do this. And physiologically, that activates a lot of calming sensations in the system. So literally will bring your heart rate down, allow you to relax a little bit more. And then the last piece of information, advice, Jordan, is ask a lot of questions and don't talk about yourself for the first 2 to 5 minutes. So since you've done a lot of research, there's a lot of questions you can ask about the person. And if you know them already, just talk about other things that are leading towards that goal you established for the call. But here's what happens. We get so worried about what we're going to say that we don't think about just listening for what we should say. So listen your way to a sale. Listen your way through a discovery call. Don't talk your way out of a sale or talk your way out of a good discovery call. So those are my pieces of advice. And this doesn't take much time to do. 5 minutes before the call, just get yourself ready. Set a timer when your call starts, 2 to 5 minutes. Don't talk about yourself. Just ask them questions. Let the conversation breathe. And I can promise you, by the time that 2 to 5 minutes is over, you're going to know exactly what to say and exactly what to talk about.
Jake, are you talking to me or Jordan here? Because I feel like that hit me where it hurts, especially that old talk your way out of a sale thing. Boy, did I need to hear that because I know I've done my share of that.
Yeah, and John, here's I think the big fallacy is everybody gets their elevator pitch ready.
Yes.
So, hey John, good to meet you. Blah. There's my elevator pitch, right? 30 to
I've
60
helped
seconds.
mid-level CEOs. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Or you have somebody that has the infamous 5 minute value prop that they talk about. And then at the end of the value prop, you're still sitting there going, so what exactly do you do?
Yep.
So your value prop and your elevator pitch should be a response, not an opening. So when I'm sitting with my prospect and I ask a whole bunch of questions and find out their pain points and what triggers their worries, then I can craft my elevator pitch or value prop to answer those questions. So
Yeah.
don't open with that, wait for it, and respond with it.
And the other big piece of this, Jordan, is we're talking about physiological things here. I mean, a lot of times we think, well, we're scared. That's not actually a physiological response. But Jake just mentioned, Jake didn't just talk about, I mean, he's a mind mechanic, but he didn't just talk about the mind. He talked about the body. And that's so important before a sales call too, is right, those deep breaths. So it certainly is part preparation and part feeling prepared, but also I can't emphasize enough, Jake, that breathing that you mentioned and some of those physiological things.
I think we underestimate that a lot, John. You know, there are times that even when I'm in moments where I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, breathing's not going to help. That's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
then I go through the breathing exercise and I do it for about, 1 to 2 minutes. And when I'm done, I think, good Lord, do I feel better?
Funny how that works.
It is. So it's amazing how that wind down really works out well. Another thing I've used in the past, Jordan, which you may find useful, is when you're sitting in your chair ready to go, tense up your whole body, tense every muscle, feet, calves, legs, chest, arms, tense it all for about 4 to 5 seconds as hard as you can, and then let it go. And that is another way for your body just to release and relax a little bit.
And those things are certainly worth trying. Thanks for chiming in, Jordan, and get back to us and let us know if that helps your sales conversations. I know it will. Those three things that Jake talked about. Moving on to Taylor. Now, Taylor is talking about some aggressive prospects. Have you ever had an aggressive prospect, Jake?
Yeah, most of them. At least one a day.
And that's the thing. People are naturally on guard when you're pitching them something. So I'm not terribly shocked by this email, but she says, "Hey Jake, I'm running into some pushy and rude prospects lately. Sometimes I get defensive. I stumble over what to say next. It's ugly. I want to maintain control, but not come off cold. How can I keep calm and confident?" What would you say to Taylor?
Yeah, we talked about this, Taylor, in a previous episode, that calm spreads faster than anger or anxiety. So the first thing I would say is basically what we said to Jordan, is when you're in the middle of a conversation like that, it's important that while they're ranting or getting aggressive, be taking those deep breaths in the background. So use that time to just kind of center yourself and relax. The second thing to remember is with an aggressive prospect, they just want to be heard. Now, they may get rude and obnoxious, which is uncalled for, but the worst thing we can do is push back because that tends to fuel the fire. But if I have an aggressive prospect, the one thing I do is I say, I understand, I see where you're coming from, and then you do the magic. You repeat back what they're saying to you in a different way. So
Mm.
if a prospect says to me, I need this done in a week, and you need to get this done for me. Instead of pushing back and saying, I can't do it, or boy, that's a quick timeline, or getting defensive, just repeat it back and say, it sounds like timelines are important here. So each time you repeat it back, they feel heard. And that tends to lower the tension a lot because all they want to do is be heard. And John, if we think about the last time we were in a really bad mood and we vented at somebody, and then afterwards we said, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have dumped that on you.
Usually, yeah. Usually I apologize.
Yeah, and that's because that release valve is really what we need. We just
Mm,
want to let it the hell out so that it's not inside us anymore. So if I can repeat things back gradually to a customer, I find that the tension level decreases.
mm,
Now, the
yeah.
question probably going through your head is, aren't they going to notice if I parrot something back? And remember, parroting back is not the same as repeating it back, just in a different way. So if they say to you, I'm really pissed off about your price, you don't want to say back to them, oh, it sounds like you're pissed off about my price,
Yeah, that won't
right?
go over well.
Right.
Right.
So they're going to notice that. But if they say, I'm really pissed off about your price, and you say, it sounds like budget's a big concern, are there any other concerns?
Ooh, I like that.
It's feeding it back and it's asking if there's anything else contributing to the anger that's taking place.
Well, you always say that price isn't usually the objection, so I'm wondering if doing that might actually help uncover something else that's contributing to the objection.
Yeah. And it really will, because it's amazing that when you say, is there anything else, how many times people will pile something onto that. Yeah,
Hmm.
and it's not going to be done quick enough. And I have three other people I'm looking at, and they said they do it quicker than you. So a lot of times those other objections will rear their head, and then you can address all of them one at a time.
This is so good. This is brilliant. If you're finding value in this too, share this because Jake has got some really, really good tips. I love this whole repeating it back to them, not in a parrot like way, but in a way that makes them feel heard and helps them to get anything else they need to get out. There's not many times in my life when I've like gone on a rant or gotten upset at someone that I don't regret or that I didn't
Yeah.
apologize for. There's not many times that I look back in my life and I go, yes, that rant was perfectly justified. I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
So we have to think of our
Yeah.
prospects in the same way.
Yeah. And John, I can tell you, I do this reflecting back to people all the time. And in the, God, probably past 13, 14 years I've been doing this, I have never once had somebody say to me, why are you just repeating back what I'm saying?
Mm,
It always elicits a larger response. I do this with my wife. I do this with my kids. Like my wife and I were talking the other day, and she had some frustrations at work, and it's like, wow, it sounds like you really had it tough today. And it just makes her want to reveal more. And it makes her
mm.
feel good because she's being listened to. And I love to listen to my wife. But
Really? Wow.
all we really want to do is be heard.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that you have
Very
a really
good.
good strategy for this. You see what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did there. That was very good. Nicely
So
done.
there you go, Taylor. That's a good a good insight. I think what she's also worried about is like stooping to the level of the prospect, right? But she also doesn't want to get walked all over. And it feels like if we don't push back, if we don't stand up for ourselves, there's a big narrative in society, I feel like. And, maybe there's some merit to it. This idea of, stand up for yourself. You deserve better. Like, I think there is something to be said for that, especially when talking to somebody rude and who's, maybe even bordering on verbally abusing you. However, you're saying also don't stoop to their level because it's quite possible that they're not trying to verbally abuse you. They just want to be heard.
Well, and you bring up a great point there. So when I say repeat it back in a different way or let them vent, I think you bring up a point that we didn't talk about is, remember, you're in control of the conversation. So if they get abusive, if they get to the point where they are just out of line, Remember, you can say to them, listen, I don't respond well to people who address me like this. And if you continue to do so, I'm going to terminate the call. So please remember that you are always in control of the conversation and you should never stoop to the point of becoming a doormat.
Right.
So if you
Right.
find that these common techniques aren't winding the other person down and they're just revving up, then it may be time for you to just cut ties with that person.
And the thing is, you don't want to work with them anyway if that's the case, right? Because the way they are on your prospect call is going to be, who's to say it's going to be any different if they become a
Right.
client?
Right.
So that scarcity mindset of, well, I don't want to throw away an opportunity to work with someone. Trust us, you won't want to work with them anyway. So really think about that. And you could be, by taking that call and spending so much time on the phone with somebody, you could be throwing away an opportunity to talk with somebody who's a better fit, right? So just shifting that mindset around. So I like that balance that you came up with, Jake.
You know what though, John, you bring up another really good point that we should cover is firing a customer is usually harder than getting a customer
Mm,
because we don't want to lose that income stream and we don't want to come across as making a bad impression and it's hard to do. Firing a customer is rough. So if you can eliminate that in the beginning, John, like you were just talking about, you're doing yourself a huge favor. And I
mm,
found in my experience, my highest maintenance customers are usually the ones who want to pay the least
mhm,
and always hem and haw about the pricing.
mm.
The
That's
ones I love
interesting.
to work with are the ones that agree that the pricing is right. And they're the ones that understand what timelines are and what a real working relationship is like. So I love that point you brought up, John.
That's important. So, Taylor, hopefully that was insightful to you. It really is that middle road that you're talking about, not being a doormat, like Jake said, but also making sure that you're giving them that outlet and that they feel heard. Casey just had a rough sales call.
Uh
So,
oh. Poor
Casey
Casey.
went off the rails, and we've all been here too, Casey. This isn't probably isn't the last time this is going to happen. I know that's not encouraging, but he says that he just stumbled his way through. He lost his train of thought, sounded unprofessional. He's beating himself up. He says it's shaking my confidence. What do you do when you completely fail? How do I reset and get ready? Because it's affecting my confidence heading into my next call.
All right. Well, Casey, this is a tough one because I would love to know your definition of fail.
Hmm.
So, did you not make the sale? Are you the only one beating yourself up? And if I talk to your prospect, would they go, no, it wasn't that bad? We tend to be our own worst enemy when it comes to things like this. But my advice, Casey, would be to do this. If you were on a Zoom call and that call was recorded, so if you have a note taker, go back through it and do a post-mortem. Just look at the transcript, see where it looks like it went off the rails, and just understand everything is a learning experience. I can promise you, even the top salespeople on the planet have those calls. So when you beat yourself up, you're beating yourself for being human, not for being a bad salesperson.
Mm. The top salespeople on the planet have those calls, just not Jake Stahl.
Oh my God, I have them all the time.
Really?
Well, listen, I think, anybody who paints themselves as perfect on every call is just misrepresenting who they are and what's taking place. I do have bad calls, and there are times I do beat myself up after those calls. But we have to understand that there's a mistake zone we need to be comfortable with. And if I get off a call and I've made considerable mistakes, the best thing I can do is look at what I did wrong, look at where I went astray, and then just try not to do that again.
Mm, mhm.
I teach communication skills for a living. I teach corporations and individuals. And one question I get a lot is, wow, you teach us all the time. You must be great at it. Not really.
Makes
I'm
sense.
Yeah, I'm good at it, but I think the thing that makes me a little bit better than most is the fact that I recognize my mistakes early
Mm,
and I try to correct
good point.
them. So I'm just more cognizant of what I screw up, I guess is the best way to say it. But you'll hear this from any salesperson who's honest. They still have bad calls to this day. They still have someone that throws them off. And you know what, Casey? It sounds to me like you're perfectly normal.
Mm.
I
That's
know
the
that
hard
doesn't
part.
help.
Right.
I know that doesn't help, but you're normal. And what I would even suggest is getting a sales coach, getting someone like myself who can listen to your calls and listen to your pitch and listen to what you're doing and just give you feedback and give you ways that can help you get better.
Mhm.
But I'm also going to give you one of my little secrets, which I don't share very often, but you'll get one today, is if I can feel a call going off the rails or I can feel myself getting a little off topic or flustered, I will pause the call. I will say, "Oh, Mr. Prospect, can you hold for just 1 second? I apologize." 9.9 times out of 10, the prospect's like, "Yeah, sure, do what you need to do." I'll get off. I'll take some deep breaths. I'll try to relax and center myself. I'll think through what I said. I'll try to think about what I'm going to say next. Then I'll get back on the call and I'll say, "Mr. Prospect, thank you for allowing me to get off for a second. I appreciate it." And nobody asks me, "Why'd you get off?" Nobody
Mhm.
says, "What'd you need to do?" They just are understanding that I need to get off for a second. And when I come back on, I'm usually a lot more prepared. I'm less flustered and I'm ready to proceed with the call. So Casey, that's one of my mind mechanics secrets is interrupt the call, take 2 minutes, get back on and start again.
Yeah, if you had to interrupt the call, I like any call, I would probably assume that you're going to the bathroom. That's kind of like the thing that I would assume. It wouldn't be, oh wow, they're really flustered and they need to catch their and no, and there's no judgment there. A lot of prospects are probably thinking, oh good, I can catch up on this one email while he's gone, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally see where there's some value in that. And then the other thing I really want to double down on is what you said at the beginning. This may or may not be the case with Casey, but how do you know a sales call was actually a success or a failure? Because I think of myself as like, well, most of my sales calls fail, which is demoralizing, but true. But that's
Well,
only,
John, you and I need to work together then.
I think we might. That's only because most of my sales calls don't result in sales. So, how are we defining a failure in a sales call? I mean, is there a way to measure success without just going on raw sales data? Because if you have a, 15-20% close rate, geez, you're failing a lot.
Yeah. And one thing I talk to sales managers about a lot when I take a contract with a company is what is your definition of a successful call?
Hmm.
So if I get off a call and I've set the goal for getting a signature and I didn't get it on that particular interaction, is that a complete failure? If
Mm.
that prospect calls back in 20 minutes and goes, "Hey, listen, I've decided I'm going to sign," is that now a success that reverses the failure?
Flips
Right?
it to a success. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never mind. It's a
So
great call.
I think that the hard part we have, John, is we use the word success a lot. So,
Hmm.
how is that call a success? Well, if you don't define that success, you're never going to hit it. And I'll give you a great example. I had somebody referred to me about a year ago and they said, "Get on the phone with this woman. She's wonderful. She's looking to hire you." So I got on the phone with her, and according to my Fathom note taker, I talked about 2%
Ooh.
of the time I was on the phone with her. We were on for a half hour.
Wow.
So I got off the phone with her, and it was my last call of the day. And I went down and I said to my wife, I said, "There's no way I got that. She doesn't even know what I do." But because she was a referral, I took the call. So about a half hour later, my email dings, and it's an email from this woman. And she says, "Don't think it wasn't lost on me that all you did was listen. I
Ooh.
appreciate that. When can we get started?"
Oh, wow.
So when I got off the phone, I'm thinking failure. I didn't even get to present what I do or how I could solve her problem. And yet, on her end, our call was a complete success.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to keep in mind we have our definition of success. Your prospect has their definition of success. And one way you can settle this is, Mr. Prospect, what would you like to see happen as a result of this call?
Mm.
Ask the question.
Yeah. And that's setting the stakes for, the next steps and what success and failure might be. But there are so
Right.
many different ways to count success. And this is why, we talk about this in personal development and goal setting as well. Are we measuring the outcomes or are we measuring the inputs? Like, are we measuring what happens that's beyond our control, say the wins, losses, those types of things? Or are we measuring the things we do day to day that brings us closer to that goal, even if it doesn't directly result in it? So we kind of have to zoom out and think, what are we measuring? So you make a really brilliant point there. And I just am thinking back to all the sales calls I've been on as the prospect and thinking to myself, how many of those did I not end up following through and buying from? And
Yeah.
the majority of them. And
Yep.
how many of those out of the majority that I didn't follow through and buy were because the salesperson sucked? Maybe a couple,
Yeah.
but most of them didn't have to do with the salesperson at all. I wouldn't have called it a bad sales call. It wasn't the right timing. So there's probably also a place to be a little bit lenient on ourselves here too, isn't there?
There is. And there's something, John, that I will now refer to as invisible KPIs. So we always are told there should be performance indicators. You should look at certain metrics. And about, oh, it's got to be probably 6, 7 years ago now, Harvard Business Review had an article on why you should probably think about getting rid of KPIs altogether.
Hmm.
And when I think about a KPI, I think there's the ones that you know of and there's the ones that you don't. For
Mhm.
instance, John, if you and I are talking on the phone and I perceive it a failure because I didn't get a signature, I don't know if you were happy with the call and maybe you refer me to someone else
That's true. It's a
who
good
then
point.
calls me and says, listen, you were on the phone with John the other day and he was really impressed and he said I should call you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes we don't even know about. So I think when you're looking at whether this is a failure or not, Casey, you need to consider all possible scenarios. And then I do what I call the 2 sunset rule. I used to do this with my kids. Is you have 2 sunsets to worry about a problem or be really thrilled about a victory, and then you got to let it go.
Hmm.
So maybe you need to set your own little rule. Like I have a 2 hour rule. I can ruminate on this for about 2 hours and then I'm done.
This is exactly the balance that I wanted to bring up here in our closing moments for Casey, because you almost said a contradictory thing, so I wanna call you out on it and see
Yeah,
what you
please
mean,
do.
on one hand, you said, "Analyze the transcript, try to get better," but on the other hand, you said, "Move on," and so in my mind, I'm going, I think it makes sense to line up, as many sales calls as you can to get the reps in, and then also because at the end of the day, you're not just, like, so focused on the one sales call that went wrong, but you're focused on the 4, 5, 6 sales calls that maybe all had mixed degrees of success. But on the other hand, you don't just want to forget your mistakes and not learn from them. So how do we
Right.
strike that balance between, let's analyze the transcript, let's see what might have gone wrong, but let's also stay confident and be ready to dive into the next one?
Right. You know what? Give yourself time after a call. I see so many reps barrel through these because they have a certain call quota they have to hit.
Mhm.
But they get rejected, bang, dial, pick up, get rejected, bang, dial, pick up, get
Demoralizing.
rejected. And
Yeah.
that wears somebody down. So give yourself a couple of minutes after a call, maybe even 5 minutes after a call, just to do that little post-mortem. What could I have done differently? What will I do differently on the next call? But you have to get to a point where you forgive yourself.
Mhm.
So look at the transcript. If it's readily obvious and you do that post-mortem and you think, oh, God, that's where it happened. I can't do that again. Good for you. If you can't find it, then you got to have a point where you let it go and
Yeah.
realize that it's just time to move on.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And so that's probably why so many people are like, "Oh, I hate sales." because that's all they're doing is get on a call, get rejected, get on a call, get rejected. I don't think I'm cut out for this. Well, nobody's cut out to get rejected 24/7, right?
Yeah.
Terrible way of living.
And there's a difference between calling and spewing your value prop over and over and over again and selling.
Mhm.
So calling and reading a script over 50 calls during a day is not selling. That's blanketing and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can refer back to my previous episodes where I tell you how much I hate sales scripts.
Yeah.
So selling is where you actually work with the customer, you solve their problems, and you do it in a way that's geared towards them, not revolving around some text on a sheet of paper.
And I'm still waiting for Alex Hormozy to call in about last week's conversation. I don't know if he will, but if you haven't checked that episode out, definitely go back and see what Jake has to say about sales scripts, because him and Alex, yeah, you might butt heads a little bit.
We're not seeing eye to eye on that. So we'll have to see if Alex DMs us, and I doubt he will. He's got bigger fish to fry than me.
But for Casey anyway, the big encouragement is that you are totally normal. Actually, for everybody who chimed in on the AMA side here, you are totally normal. And that's one of the cool things is, where did I put it? Right here. Your book, Jake, Own the Room, breaks this myth that everybody's special.
Right.
All right. We all were all heard as a kid, you're so special. You're one of a kind. But what you're saying, Jake, in this book is that we are all very similar, and we've all been rejected. We've all experienced the feelings that these three folks who chimed in today are experiencing when it comes to sales.
Yeah. And one other point I'd like to add, John, as we close this show is we tend to watch TV shows where the characters always say the perfect thing and they've always got sound bites going on. And I just want people to remember that that does not reflect reality at all. There's nobody out there that has the perfect sound bite on every call. Even the Wolf of Wall Street, if you read his book, he tells you how many times he screwed up and how many times he flubbed calls before he started to get better and do things. And even then, the close rate wasn't 100%. So even the best people anywhere have these moments. The difference between the bad reps and the good ones is the good ones look at what they do, they try to modify it, and they try to get better each time.
Yeah. And even then, didn't he end up in jail?
He did. Yep.
So yeah, no, I hear exactly what you're saying. Hey,
yeah. So his version of success might not have been jail, but that's kind of where he went. He's out now, though.
That's right. That's right. All right. Now that we've gone completely, now that we've gone completely off the rails, I did want to remind you that Own the Room is available, by the way, on all wherever you buy your books, especially Amazon. That's linked down in the show notes too. So make sure you grab your copy if you're looking for more secrets that Jake has to be seen, heard, and respected. Jake, another great AMA episode. If you want to, by the way, contribute your questions or your thoughts to the show, DM one of us on LinkedIn. That would be the best way to reach out.
Yes, and subscribe to the show so that you keep getting these episodes.
That's right. It's a great way to support the show too, because we don't get paid for this. Jake does this out of the goodness of his heart, right, Jake?
I've yet to receive any type of remuneration for this, except for the joy of helping people.
And that's enough for Jake. But to help other people, you can subscribe, leave a review wherever you get the show, and we'll catch you next week on Own the Room.
Thanks for checking out Own the Room with Jake Stahl. If you've gotten value from this episode, share it with the solopreneur in your life who wants to know how to communicate to be seen, heard, and respected. Review and rate the show wherever you check out podcasts, and grab your copy of Own the Room, How to Communicate to be Seen, Heard, and Respected. We'll catch you next week on Own the Room.